cybersecurity frameworks that we desperately need in Pakistan. And this combination has, of course, led to a steady increase in complaints relating to fraud and impersonation and online harassment, which is very common in countries like Pakistan, unfortunately, and hopefully gets better with more education and awareness. Online fraud and phishing. So, one of the most common cybercrimes in Pakistan is online fraud, and which is through phishing, which basically means that victims receive messages or calls falsely claiming to be from banks, mobile services providers, or government bodies. I'm pretty sure all of you might have gone through that, because phishing is like the number one crime in actually Southeast Asia, and it actually expands from Southeast Asia and South Asia to the Western world as well. Unfortunately, it happens in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, a lot of these countries, and phishing is like something that's very, very, very much on the rise. And these communications are designed basically to extract sensitive information, resulting in financial loss and identity misuse, which again, as we talked about yesterday, that identity and personal information is so important because it comes under privacy law and also data protection law. And the number one target of these phishing calls and online fraud are people who are of an older generation who do not have an understanding of how this kind of fraud and phishing can lead to a lot of financial loss, and technically because they expose their bank details or these phishing people who are behind these kind of frauds, they've gotten very, very smart, unfortunately, and which means that your ordinary person has to have more and more awareness in regards to what is phishing, which, as I just mentioned, and how online fraud can actually happen. And that I feel like the basic concept that everybody needs to know is that you're not supposed to reveal any of your personal information to any online body, which can be a phone call, emails, messages, anything like that. So if you have that kind of a basic understanding, I feel like online phishing and fraud can be reduced at a huge extent. Okay, so hacking and unauthorized access. I'm pretty sure everybody must have heard about hacking, and hacking involves gaining unauthorized access to email accounts, social media profiles, databases, or devices. And in Pakistan, many hacking incidents occur not because of advanced techniques, but due to weak passwords. That is something I really want to emphasize today, that it's not just any kind of an advanced technique, but mostly because people don't understand how much you need to safeguard your personal details, your private accounts. And for that, it means to have strong passwords, not share your credentials, outdated software, and lack of basic cybersecurity hygiene, which is honestly, in turn, fault. I would say I would blame the government, but besides that, as like different individuals, we can definitely from our side focus on strengthening our passwords, not share our basic credentials, and make sure that we update our softwares. Besides that, cybersecurity hygiene is something that is not in our control, but should be in the control of the people who are making the law, and which basically exposes users to serious personal and financial harm. So I believe to reduce hacking and unauthorized access, I really would recommend everybody to strengthen their passwords, make sure to not share your basic credentials with like everybody else, unless it's a trusted persona, which again is still not something I would advise. Moving on, data breaches and digital harm. So data breaches occur when personal or confidential information is accessed or disclosed without authorization. In Pakistan, as you all may have known and heard a lot in news, that data breaches have exposed CNIC details, phone numbers, and financial information and private communications. Such breaches often lead to fraud, blackmail, reputational damage. Unfortunately, that is a big part of our culture in our society, and emotional distress, particularly for vulnerable groups. So, data breaches and digital harm. I wanted to come to this after yesterday's presentation, that the reason why I was talking about consent is so important in terms of sharing your information is that if your data or your information is shared or leaked, right, which if it's not your fault, right, if it's through like Nadra, and your personal information has been shared, what happens is that it goes to these different companies and different organizations, and when they buy it, or even these fraud companies who basically run these call centers in which they would call and like blackmail people with the information that they have, into gaining financial profits for themselves. And they usually target a certain demographic, which is above 50, I believe. But still, I feel like data breaches and digital harm is something that needs to be understood, as I mentioned. And data breaches can occur on an organizational level, which again is not an individual's fault like ours. It's mostly the company's fault. But on a personal level, what we can do to like protect ourselves is actually make sure that we have safeguarded all of our information and personal information, um, and taken all the necessary steps in safeguarding it. Other than that, if it's still being breached, then of course that's out of our hands, and the government needs to be, or the company that has um, breached our data, unfortunately, is like super responsible for it. That's where cybersecurity actually kicks in, and cybersecurity law kicks in. And what's the purpose of cybersecurity law? Okay, so cybersecurity law aims to prevent cyber attacks, protect digital infrastructure, and impose legal responsibility where security failures occur. So it emphasizes a proactive risk management reason. Sorry, so it emphasizes a proactive risk management and reasonable security measures and accountability for organizations that collect or control sensitive data, rather than like relying solely on criminal punishment after harm has occurred. So the purpose of cybersecurity law is to not just punish like a particular person, right? It's actually to make sure that these big organizations, these big companies who do have access to our data, like your governmental organizations, like NADRA, or even your like your private organizations which hold our phone numbers and our other details, um, they should actually be held accountable for not sharing our data without our consent, and making sure that there are no data breaches, right? And there should be reasonable security measures, and they should be held accountable if there are any kind of data breaches. So that's, as I mentioned before, that's actually where cybersecurity law kicks in, is because it just doesn't like punish them. It makes sure that these digital frameworks of law are actually in place, and they are strengthened for these organizations to make sure that these kind of crimes or like data breaches don't occur. And it kind of puts them under a, I would say, under a like large spotlight, and like besides criminal punishment, even after the harm has occurred, they are supposed to be responsible for any kind of data breach. So I feel like that is the main gist and the main purpose of cybersecurity law, that it just doesn't hold, it just, so you don't just punish one person, you can actually make sure that a whole organization is held accountable for any kind of cybercrime. If it is occurred through them or by them, and not just if like one person, does it. So yeah, and moving on, cybercrime law in Pakistan, very interesting subject actually. I think personally, Pakistan's primary cybercrime statute is the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act 2016, PECA, as I mentioned yesterday about it. And it criminalizes a wide range of online activities and provides a legal authority for further investigation and prosecution of cyber offenses. It also reflects the state's attempt to respond, respond to emerging digital threats within a criminal law framework. Um, so, what happens? So, cybercrime law in Pakistan under the PECA, and there are other organizations as well, as Eamon mentioned one before yesterday as well in our Q&A session. We do have cybercrime law in Pakistan, and I know a few friends of mine who unfortunately had to face some kind of a cybercrime. And what I did like about that is that it was easy to report, and the threats or anything else, it was very promptly taken into account by these organizations. So that is one thing that I personally have experienced, that these organizations and are actually working at a nicer pace than I anticipated. But yes, so we do have criminal law framework, because cybercrime does come under criminal law framework, as I mentioned yesterday. And it does reflect Pakistan's attempt to actually work towards cybercrime, because that is an ever-growing crime in Pakistan due to the lack of education and awareness, unfortunately, in our people, that we don't understand how to use internet and digital devices safely. And another thing is that a large demographic that is being targeted under cyber crimes are actually women, and quite upsetting. And that is why I feel like the cybercrime organizations in Pakistan do actually do a good job. But again, we need more and more accountability. I think we need more and more awareness in our younger population, men and women, in regards to using the internet safely, and understanding that it is a crime, and crime is not just physical; it can be done digitally as well. Moreover, just quickly going over this, that offenses covered under PECA, Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act 2016. What is actually is PECA is a Pakistan's primary cybercrime law designed to regulate and criminalize electronic crimes, misuse of data, and online misconduct. PECA covers offenses such as unauthorized access to information systems, electronic fraud, identity theft, cyber stalking, which is unfortunately not talked about enough in our country, but cyber stalking is kind of a very huge crime. Online harassment, you might have seen on different social media platforms, which is a cyber crime. People don't understand it, and you can report it. And also data interference, offenses relating to misuse of images, very common in Pakistan, unfortunately. Another cybercrime, and personal information. These provisions are commonly invoked in cases involving social media abuse and digital impersonation. Um, I'm going to just quickly go over the other sides. Cybercrime investigation and enforcement. Cybercrime complaints in Pakistan, as I mentioned before, are investigated by the Federal Investigation Agency's Cybercrime Wing. Complaints can be submitted through online portals or even like you can go in person. While this has improved access to reporting, enforcement challenges still remain due to lack and limited technical resources, unfortunately, and procedural delays and even capacity across regions, because a lot of cybercrime is like reported um, into these wings from major cities, but we don't even talk about the ones if we go towards our rural areas in like Pakistan, where cybercrime is still a crime. Either you can, go anywhere, it's still considered a crime. And yeah, so you can always report it, but still we have a lot of challenges in our system in regards to technical resources, of course, and procedural delays and uneven capacity. We need proper wings in different regions of Pakistan. Personally, I believe it. And legal and practical challenges. So, despite its broad scope, PECA has raised concerns regarding vague provisions, potential misuse, and impact on freedom of expression. And additionally, effective enforcement is often hindered by delays in evidence evidence preservation and lack of digital forensic expertise, which somebody I remember asked a question in our Q&A session on day one. And yes, that is something I do want to emphasize on, is that we need a lot of digital expertise and forensic expertise in terms of cybercrime in our cybercrime wing. And yes, cybercrime law is something that is on the rise and actually is going to be a huge legal area. I personally very much vouch for it, that this is something that is considered a huge criminal activity. Unfortunately, our local public is not aware of it. They think it's fun and you can just do anything on the internet. But you can't, you can't just go on the internet and do whatever you want. You need to understand that there are repercussions. And as an individual, especially as Pakistani citizens, we need to understand that we have a legal responsibility and a duty to ourselves to make sure that we don't spread this kind of this kind of misinformation and misuse the internet. Honestly, misuse the digital space. Recent cybercrime case pattern in Pakistan and a recurring and well-documented category of recent cybercrime cases in Pakistan involved social media impersonation and online harassment, particularly through fake Instagram and fake Facebook accounts. Pretty sure that you guys must have faced that, at least one of you. I have. It's not fun, and it's nothing to do joke about. It's nothing to be taken as as something that's like, oh, it's fine. No, it's actually a huge crime, and it can be reported, and there are legal repercussions to it. Also, in these cases, the perpetrators use stolen photographs and personal information to create fake profiles, often to harass, defame, or blackmail victims. Numerous such cases have officially been reported by the FIA and under the PECA. Again, due to procedural delays, PECA is something that I believe is in place, but they don't really work a lot on it. And cybercrime, I feel like, unfortunately, we need proper frameworks for that. And I don't represent the government, but I will vouch for the fact that we need proper legal rules in placement, and we need awareness of the public. We need the public to take responsibility for its own actions online, and not just the government as well, because we all use the internet. We should be more aware of how to use it more safely, and make sure that the other person is not feeling bad from our actions online. I think that's very important. So just moving on, that recent cybercrime case pattern in Pakistan, that so the application of so we'll start with the legal issues raised by these cases. So these cases raise serious legal issues relating to unauthorized use of personal data, violations of privacy, and they also demonstrate how weak cybersecurity and lack of data protection safeguards allow personal information to be misused with initial resistance, right? And under the PECA, offenses such as cyber stalking and identity theft and unauthorized use of information are definitely applicable to impersonation cases, and investigations typically do require the cooperation from social media platforms, and preservation of digital evidence and technical tracing of IP addresses is something that's also done under the PCA. But delays or lack of evidence often weaken the enforcement outcomes. Also, our cybercrime wing and PCA and the I would say in the implementation of these legal rules is not something that I am proud of. Is not something as a lawyer I can say that these it's like working perfectly fine. No, it's not. They're not in place. They don't do what they're supposed to do. So it's always, I'd say it's a bargain from both the ends for the individuals and the government, like our constitution and PACA. Moving on. So yes, that is something I tried to cover up with the limited amount of time. Day two key takeaways, I would say, is that cybercrime presents a growing threat to Pakistan's digital ecosystem. And while PECA provides a legal framework for addressing cyber crimes, effective protection requires stronger cybersecurity practices, very much emphasizing on that part, right? And clearing data protection laws, improved enforcement capacity, and greater public awareness of digital rights and remedies is required. So just to summarize everything, I'm trying to fit in as much as I can. I mean, cybercrime, I can just talk for days and days and days, guys. But cybercrime is something that, just to give a few cents of mine, is that it's a global crime. It is a crime. And although we can blame our government and our constitution and people who are working in those cyber wings as much as we want, and yes, it is their responsibility as well to implement those laws, which unfortunately is very weakened, especially in our country as well. But as individuals, it is actually our responsibility to take control of what we can. Make sure that if we are seeing somebody else going through a like some kind of a crime or some kind of a cyber crime on like online, make sure that we are there for them. Make sure that we try to educate them. Or if you are friends with somebody, or if you know somebody who is doing that, make sure that you help, you tell them, or you like report them. And just honestly, it's not fun being the victim of these crimes. It's not nice. And unfortunately, as I mentioned before, that a huge demographic of the victims in our country are women, and women have to suffer through this a lot. And I would still say men do as well, but women have a higher percentage of being victims. it's the responsibility of us and our education system. And, we come from nice houses. We should be responsible for making sure that we don't make anybody feel, um, I feel like bad or like uncomfortable like online. Make sure that we are using our devices and our social media platforms carefully. And not everything is a joke. Unfortunately, people take it as a joke. They're like, oh no, it's okay, it's fine. No, it's not. It's not. As an attorney myself, I am very much practicing in digital law, and you can actually take a lot of action. And I don't joke about this at all with any of my friends or my even my own sisters or my parents. That no, it's something that needs to be taken seriously, and it is not a joke. And you need to understand that these things are very serious and these are proper crimes, and you can go to jail, pay like a huge fine for this, and just understand that you are actually mentally hurting somebody as well and their whole family. So yes, cybercrime is something that is an individual responsibility as well as a whole of society. And um, as much as government should come and play in this, unfortunately, our legal systems don't allow us a lot of wiggle room, and it's still a very much of a gray area in Pakistan. Um, yeah, even here in the US and the UK, I still see a lot of cybercrime here as well. So yeah, that is something that I would like to conclude on a note. And yes, thank you guys. Hopefully, I did not rush through it and I did not speak that fast, so forgive me. But thank you so much for coming for my presentation on day 2. I think I would like to give the floor to Eamon or somebody.
Miss, thank you so much for such an insightful and detailed session. Now we will move towards question and answer segment.
Sure. Okay. So I was hoping I can just open my camera so I can make sure everybody sees me if that is comfortable with you guys.
Yes, Miss, that's all right.
Okay. Okay, guys. Hello and assalamu alaikum, and I would love to answer your questions. I know we're running short on time.
So, Miss, first question is by Tahmina Kamar.
Yeah.
And she wants to know what is identity theft.
So, hello and assalamu alaikum, Tahmina. And identity theft is something that basically, so your personal information, as in, for instance, my name is Duaa Najam, and that is my whole identity, my phone number, my picture. And so what happens in identity theft is that a person takes up your name, your personal information, your address where you belong, and they pretend to be you online. For instance, somebody can steal your information from Nadra, right? And what they do is they can go online and pretend to be you. And so when they pretend to be you, that comes under identity theft. Is somebody pretending to be you and taking your identity and going online on social media and like pretending to be you, using your identity to, for instance, open like a debit card at a bank. So that's identity theft, is your personal information. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, that did answer the question. Someone has raised their hand, Mohammed Jameen. If you have any question, you can write it down in the chat and Miss will answer it.
Yes, sorry, let me just open the chat.
Miss, there is another question by Umair Mahmood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll read it. He says there have been numerous cases of data leakages in Pakistan in the form of stolen credit card information and phone number ID card, which were at one time placed on public websites and sometimes accessible even on dark web. No matter how much we try, the fact of the matter is that companies keep revising their privacy policies in a manner that makes our data vulnerable, and apps particularly do not install if one refuses to grant reasonable permission solicited by them. Also, one phenomenon that has risen is creation of fake profiles of people residing abroad and eventually swindling their friends and family by asking for money. I think he wants to ask how can we avoid that.
Okay, I understand that. I've just read the question online as well. So I'll be like, I'll just make it very brief because there are two answers to this question. Number one is, unfortunately, yes. Data leakages in Pakistan is very common and much on the rise. And as an individual, it is not your fault. It is the organization's fault. We cannot do much about it than protect our accounts, especially as Pakistani citizens. And I know that dark web is something that is unfortunately a huge part of the digital age. And what I would suggest as an attorney would be, my advice would be to like not trust a lot of apps, not trust websites so easily. Make sure that unless that website is very much trustworthy, and by trustworthy I mean that it is well known, it has a proper IP address, right? Make sure that these things are in place and people know about the website. You can always research about it if that makes you feel more like comfortable, but only then you should trust them, as you said, with their privacy policies. For instance, if you're using Gmail or you're using Outlook, right? In terms of data leakages, I'd say that is not an individual's fault. That is mostly to blame the organization and the government. And in terms of dark web, it's not just Pakistan's fault. A lot of other countries are still working on it, and it exists. We are still fighting for it. Even here in the US, people are still fighting for it. I would say that unfortunately, we don't have a lot of legal frameworks in place that are suitable enough to fight for it. So I apologize from the legal standpoint that you cannot do a lot about that unless just like protect your passwords and protect your personal information through passwords. Also, two-step verification. Two-step verification, you can also do that. That's very important. I do that for all of my IDs, for all of my email accounts. I change my passwords every month. Make sure you don't have any kind of malicious activity. Maybe monitor that from like your standpoint. And just lastly, answering your last question, that if fake profiles, I know those are very common in Pakistan. If you know a friend of yours that is doing that, please stop them. Please tell them that it is a crime. Please try to report them. Also, you can always report them. Ask your friends to report them, and these report systems do work for fake profiles regarding Facebook and Instagram, because they do have a good system for cybercrime here in the US for social media. So Instagram and Facebook does work on it promptly, and make sure that you don't support it, and just like report it as much as you can. Sorry. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, so Miss next question is by Saad Ghaffar, and he's asking to guide he's saying for the audience, please guide us through the process of reporting cyber crimes in FIA.
Thank you, Saad. So Through the cybercrimes to FIA, I would say that I'm not completely well versed on that, but I think the process is very simple. From what I've known, from what my friend back in Pakistan had done, is that you can contact them. Their number and their email is promptly available on any Google or Chrome or Safari or like whatever you use. You can grab their number and just call them. That's it. It's super simple. If somebody wants to report a crime, just call them, just email them, and they ask you for some information. Always make sure when you are reporting a cybercrime, you have some kind of evidence with you. So if it's through texts, stalking, whatever it is, take screenshots, make sure you have some kind of evidence in place for those kind of crimes. Also, if it's through phone or anything like that, you make sure you have that phone number, because they can track the IP address and make sure that they don't do that. So it's pretty simple. To answer your question, Mr. Ghaffar, is that you go to their website or you call them up, their cybercrime wing. You can always Google it. I think there are 2 organizations, 2 to 3, and they really respond very promptly. So the whole process is like not that hard. You just have to call them or you have to email them, and they do respond very fast. Make sure you have your evidences in place, your screenshots and your phone numbers, and yeah, that's it. It's not that hard. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, Miss answer was really clear. I think that should have. Next question is by Anas Shamim, and he is asking who should bear legal responsibility when a cyber attack causes harm, the organization that was breached, the software provider, or the attacker?
That's a very good question, Anas Shamim. I believe that in a cyber attack situation, what happens is, of course, the responsibility, first of all, falls upon the person who attacked, who initiated the cyber attack. Number 1. Number 2, your major responsibility also goes upon the company or the different organization, because that means that their safeguarding system wasn't as strong, their compliance system wasn't as strong, and they need to work on it promptly. But again, sometimes it is strong from their POV, but the onus of the cybercrime always falls upon the attacker, of course, number 1. Number 2, then the onus falls upon the organization or the company, and never the software provider, because the software provider did their job. They made the software, they sold it the company, that's it, right? The onus is on the company for not making sure that there were proper compliance rules for the company, for the cyber attack, and the onus, number 1, again, falls upon the attacker. So yes, to answer your question, that it is the attacker and the company, and then the company, but not the software provider.
Miss, now we will be taking last question, which is by Saqib Javed. He's asking, how should Pakistani law balance national security interest with constitutional privacy rights under Article 14 and other relevant articles pertaining to fundamental rights, especially in the context of increasing digital surveillance?
Okay, I'm gonna make it short. And how should Pakistani? Sorry, I'm gonna read again. So I think that's a very vast question, because balancing our constitutional privacy rights, first of all, and balancing the national security interests of Pakistan, I think there should be certain kind of, and I know like digital surveillance is a very, very sensitive topic, especially here in the US as well. What we need more and more is, I feel like, different experts and legal personas who are, first of all, going to be in place while making certain kind of rules and regulations for digital surveillance, because they understand the balance and the extent of how much it should be used and how it should be used, right? I think what your question asks is the freedom of expression, as in if there is some kind of a digital surveillance, that it kind of undermines your freedom of your right to not be your right to privacy, right? I feel like there is and there should always be certain kind of a boundary, which means consent. Again, this is where the whole concept of consent comes again. And even under Article 14, I feel like the way Pakistani law can balance its national security interests as well as privacy rights for digital surveillance is the increasing amount of consent for different individuals. If the government wants certain kind of surveillance, I feel like consent should be the number one topic of discussion under the Constitution, under Article 14. And for the individual that the government is trying to, for instance, look after or something like that. But my main point is like consent. I feel like what like balances the national security interests as well as digital surveillance in the context of law is consent. As a young lawyer myself in this area, consent is something that I feel like is the key to balance these two things. If you have consent, then the person if the government wants to, look over you or look after what you've done, I feel like an individual should have the right to consent, to give consent for the government to look over and look into whatever surveillance they want. But once the individual has given that consent, then the government, can jump into digital surveillance. But consent is so important because I feel like that individual or that company or like whatever entity it is, they should agree to that first. That agreement, that form of consent is what I feel like the balance point of our constitution and our privacy rights and digital surveillance for any country, and especially for Pakistan. So consent is something I would say that is probably the way to balance what you're asking. Again, that is my opinion. Nothing to be taken that legally, but yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for addressing these questions so clearly. We will end the session now. So to all our participants, thank you for active engagement and such thoughtful questions. And your participation truly makes these sessions more meaningful. And we also appreciate your, excuse me.
No problem.
We really appreciate your patience regarding the brief technical issue at the beginning of the session, and thank you for your understanding and cooperation. With this, we come to the end of day 2 of our 3-day webinar, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for the final session at the same time. Please make sure to attend, as participation in all 3 sessions is mandatory to be eligible for e-certificates. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. It was very nice having you, and hoping to see you tomorrow. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.